I've come here today to do what the Republicans in Congress refuse to do. Take the necessary steps to secure our border.
Liar, 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 and you know it.
Biden does a complete 180 on the border, or does he? Okay, he's finally coming out and talking tough. He's going to be the big strong man on border security after years of denying that there was a problem, and then of course trying to blame it on Republicans, and then asking for Congress to give him the power to act on the border. Well, guess what? Now he's taking executive actions that he denied he had the power to do all along, but the plan he set up is still awful, okay? And guess what? They're still going to try to pin this on Republicans. Of course, the reason he's taking these actions is completely obvious. It's hurting him in the polls. So the first thing we want to do is check out this tidbit from CNN. But before we do, please comment and like on this video so we can break through the algorithm. Let's get to it.
It's tremendously important. What a difference from where we were 4 years ago at this point. So immigration is the nation's top problem. Back in May of 2020, it was just 1% of voters who said that. It ranked 15th on the list of most important problems in the United States. Look at where we are today, May of 2024, the last poll conducted by Gallup. It's up to 18%, so that's 18 times as high. And more than that, it ranks as the second most important problem. So we've gone from 15th to second. So to me, it's not a huge surprise that President Biden is doing what he's doing, because the fact is immigration is at the top of the mind for the American voter.
And sometimes my next question depends on how the question is asked, but who do people trust? Who do voters trust more on this issue?
Yeah, no matter how you phrase it, you will see that more voters today trust former President Trump over President Biden, but the margins can change depending on how it is. So this is a better job on border security and immigration, which tends to be one of former President Trump's best questions. But I think the key thing here, Kate, to look at is the timeline and look at the trend line here. Because back in June of 2020, Biden was actually trusted more on the question of border security and immigration by a single point. Look at where we are in May of 2024. My goodness gracious. Look at this huge jump that Donald Trump has gotten. He is now ahead on this issue by 27 percentage points. So it's not just that immigration is more at the top of voters' minds than it was 4 years ago. It's that who they trust on the issue has changed tremendously. I look at a lot of questions. I dig into the crosstabs a lot. The fact that you see a 30-point shift, I'm used to seeing 10, 15, maybe 20-point shifts, but basically a 30-point shift, 28 points if you want to be exact, that is very, very different from a lot of other polling questions.
And this issue, you know, this is where Donald Trump's rhetoric is most extreme and most harsh, and that goes for many Republicans with regard to border security and immigration. How do immigrant communities react to this? Is there any sign that there's backlash to this?
Yeah, it's very interesting to me, because I think a lot of Democrats are saying, oh, look at, you know, Donald Trump, look at what we call anti-immigration rhetoric. There's going to be some backlash. I'm not quite sure that's exactly right. And I've been keeping a track on this. So this is who U.S. voters born outside of the country, so you know, people who might be born in France, people who might be born in Mexico, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Who do they prefer for president? Well, this is quite something. It's a number that always seems to surprise me no matter how often I look at it. In fact, they slightly more of them support Donald Trump at 47% than Joe Biden at 44%. Again, this is a change from where we were in 2020, because those voters who were born outside the United States prefer Joe Biden. But in this case, no sign of a backlash, Kate, at this point.
The numbers speak for themselves. Everyone knows that Donald Trump actually shut down the border very effectively, cutting back, of course, on illegal immigration. And if we come over here, we can actually check out that, yes, in fact, Joe Biden, when he first came into office, took 94 executive actions in his first 100 days to destroy the border. He undid everything Donald Trump had done, and then he complained about it for 6 months, saying, I don't have any power to take executive actions on the border. Well, if you can undo them, chances are you can redo them as well, Joe, you big freaking liar. So, of course, what is Joe Biden actually saying on the border? What's his big policy change? Well, he signed a proclamation that will temporarily suspend the entry of non-citizens across the southern border once the number of average border encounters exceeds 2,500 a day over 7 days. You can't make this stuff up. That's basically 21,000 people. So if we have 21,000 people over here for the course of 7 days, what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to cut back to only 1,500 encounters, right? We're not going to shut it down. We're just going to say, drop it by 1,000 and still let the floodgates open. That, of course, is Joe Biden's big plan. That's what's going to save the border in this country, okay? And don't forget also, Joe Biden, of course, comes out and has now officially offered work permits for illegal immigrants, allowing them to jump the line. And every single job given to an illegal immigrant is one taken away from an American citizen or a legal immigrant. So does that sound like a good policy, Joe? No, it does not, of course. Now, of course, there's going to be a huge media spin to pin this all on Republicans, right? It's our fault because we're hateful, etc. But Senator Kennedy is actually going to do a great job of pointing out the hypocrisy of Joe Biden. Let's check this out.
Okay, I want you to listen up. Here's the drill. President Biden is in trouble politically. He's polling right up there with fungal infections. Part of the reason for that is that he gave in to the loon wing of his party, and he dissolved the southern border. Now, 5 months before an election, he has to appear to be willing to do something about it, hence this executive order. And he expects you to report this epiphany that he has had, take what the White House is telling you, balance it on your noses like trained seals, and report it uncritically. For 3 years, we have watched President Biden push on a door that has been clearly marked pull. He's mismanaged Congress, COVID, the national debt, the economy, inflation, crime, Afghanistan, Iran, the war in Gaza, the war in Ukraine, and now, of course, the border. And every time, I think the president has hit rock bottom. He has managed to find a shovel and continue to dig. Hence, this executive order. And I think that's what the American people see. The first question I would ask President Biden is this. It's a little late, isn't it, Mr. President? It's a little late. You can't make this cat walk backwards. The president's border policies have allowed 8 million people to come into our country illegally. If you try to come into our country today legally, you are a sucker. You are a sucker. All you have to do is present yourself at the southern border. Now, for 3 years, President Biden told us all, there is no crisis at the southern border for reasons clearly stated on the teleprompter. And his plan to deal with the crisis at the border was to pretend that there wasn't a crisis at the border. Some of you reported that. Some of you didn't. Well, when the American people figured it out, because they may be poorer under President Biden, but they're not stupid, the Biden administration shifted strategy. It then said, well, we know there's a crisis at the border, but we don't have any authority to fix it. That didn't work either, because the American people aren't cell deep stupid. So now he has decided to tell you that he has been born again. He has had an epiphany. He is now a border hawk. And that's what he wants you to report. Look, you can cut the hypocrisy with a knife. You know, I have seen the good side of politics, but I've also seen the dark side. I spent 25 years in the major leagues of Louisiana politics before I was sent down to the minors here in Washington. I have seen the good side, but I've seen the dark side. And this is one of the most cynical things that I have ever seen a politician attempt to do 5 months before an election. It is insulting. It is cheap. It is contemptuous. And the American people see that. and I hope you do too.
Before we continue, I do want to mention that Joe Biden is ruining the economy. Inflation is up and he is devaluing our currency. So what can you do to protect your dollar? You can go to Genesis Gold Group and turn your 401k or IRA into a gold-backed retirement account. Get back on that gold standard and protect your money. Now, to do this, of course, just go to angryteachergold.com or call 1-800-200-4653 to protect your money. And of course, Genesis Gold Group is a faith-based, America First organization, so you can be assured you're not investing with a woke company. Let's get back to it. So, of course, Senator Kennedy is calling out the media in this case because he knows they're just going to carry Joe Biden's water, right? They'll come out and say, oh, this is the best thing Joe Biden could ever possibly have done. It will solve the problem. All of our illegal immigration woes are, poof, gone with the wind, right? Joe Biden is the second coming. He's fixed everything, when, as a matter of fact, he's not doing anything. He's saying, hey, instead of it being this bad, it's now just going to be this bad, right? 2,500 crossings a day, 1,500 crossings a day. That's much better, right? So even though to the left it may sound like an improvement, the American voter is not fooled. As Senator Kennedy said, we are poorer under Joe Biden, but we are not stupid. Unless, of course, you're watching and believing all of the mainstream media. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.